Hey everybody, Phantom Shadow here, and welcome back to more Root Film. Last time, we were invited to a mystery author's birthday party, where there's all a bunch of tricks and stuff to her house. And then she ended up murdered. So, yeah, we're investigating that. Apparently, Riho and Manabe were the last ones to arrive. The other guests were already gathered in the parlor the party was held in. Everyone was visibly anxious. Several officers and a detective enter the room, as if they've been waiting for them to arrive. The moment they see the detective's face, Rio exclaims with surprise, "Huh? Inspector Manba? Is that you?" "Oh, you're Rio and Miss Manabe, too. What are you two doing here?" "We met Miss Kana by coincidence yesterday, and she invited us over." "I see. Even if it was a coincidence, you two have a knack for getting caught up in these kind of situations. But we can talk later. I have to get to work for now." "Right." Manba's expressions harden as he turns to face the guest. "Ahem, yes, I'm Toshiro Manba, from the Metropolitan Public Security Bureau. I'll be in charge of investigating this incident." "Are all the people involved here?" Everyone looks at each other, prompted by that question. Hiroko raises her voice. "Soichi isn't here yet. I did tell him to come, but..." "Soichi? Who is that again?" "Oh yeah, the victim's younger brother, yeah?" Manba speaks while flipping through his memo pad. "We'll speak with him separately later. Anyway, for now, the victim's cause of death is clear. Asphyxiation due to suffocation. The estimated time of death is late last night, around 2200. Suffocation? Something about what Manba said comes across as odd to Rio. He should have seen the rope marks too, so why did he call it suffocation instead of strangulation? But while Rio's mind was churning, Manba kept on speaking. "Yes, so with that in mind, as hard as it is to say this, all of you who were in this estate yesterday are currently suspects. Only potential suspects, of course, but we ask you to cooperate with the investigation. And also, please refrain from going out until you have our permission." Everyone starts murmuring at Manba's words. "No, I have to get back to Tokyo as soon as possible." "That's right, I need to get back to my writing or I'll miss my deadline. I have my store to attend to." "Silence, everyone. We intend to conclude this investigation and lift your restrictions as soon as possible, so please cooperate with us. I believe I'll be calling on you all personally later, so please keep what I said in mind." Wait a moment. Having relayed all necessary information, he exits the parlor. Left in his wake are everyone else, filled with anxiety and displeasure. My word, why do we have to be confined to this place? This is absurd. I agree, especially since the estimated time of death was at 11 o'clock. We were still at the party at that time, so maybe it wasn't done by any of us. Perhaps it was Miss Kana, who wandered outside and accosted by a burglar. I don't know about that. Can't imagine someone just passed by and did the act. What do you mean? This is a remote place, and it was nighttime without any illumination outside. Can you imagine someone just walking in here? I suppose that's true. It seems much more likely that one of us snuck out of the parlor and did the deed. I do believe all of us left for the restroom for a few minutes at one point or another. This is absurd. None of us have a reason to kill her. Who's to say? For example, you always seem so neurotic, as if Kana always throttled you about with her frivolous attitude. Grudge, perhaps? What are you saying? If anyone's suspicious, it would be you. Yes, what about me? You'd be envious of Miss Kana, who eclipsed you in both sales and reviews. How rude. Calm down, you two. Suspecting each other now won't do us any good. Mr. Ozono, I do believe you went too far. You were of the same age and profession as her, Miss Hiroko, and with Miss Kana dead, the copyrights will be transferred to you. I would never kill Miss Kana for something like that. I wonder. Riho watches over the unsightly exchange from a distance. Staying away was a good idea. Saved us the trouble of getting caught up in all that. Really did. The anxiety must be making them act like that. Manabe, did what Mamba said back there feel off to you? What do you mean? I saw rope marks on the corpse when I checked it yesterday. That means Kana was strangled by some kind of wire or rope. But he said suffocation. Normally you'd assume he called strangulation or suicide by hanging. That felt off to me. We should ask him about it later. Yeah, let's do that. So, what do we do? You recorded the party yesterday, right? Yes, I thought it'd be nice to commemorate it, so I left it running on the shelf. Though it only has footage of one point. Well, that could be useful. Let's check it out. The estimated time of death was 11 o'clock, so let's confirm who excused themselves at the time. Yeah, I understand. Alright, let's go back to our room then. Having returned to their room, the two immediately play the video. The estimated time of death was 11 o'clock, so let's just check the footage just before and after that time. Let me get the hour of footage then. It's long, so I'll fast forward through it. That sounds about right. Soichi, he left as soon as Miss Kana did the toast. He's Miss Kana's younger brother. They said he's an artist who's very bad with people. I suppose he didn't want to be part of it, even an event like this. But we had the toast at 20:30, so he has no alibi for Miss Kana's estimated time of death. Suppose that's what it means, but Kana was his sister, and she supported him when he couldn't make a living. Suppose that's true, but we can't make assumptions about him when we haven't even spoken to him once. Maybe he had a complex over how successful his sister was. Talking about hypotheticals won't get us anywhere. We should talk to him later. Right, let's do that. So, Izono is Miss Kana's editor? Apparently. But I think seeing the author he's in charge of dying was a huge shock. I wouldn't be able to take it. Why are you staring at me? Just a thought. Wow, she really loves me, huh? Manabe cocks her head quizzically, unable to understand what Rio's getting at. But upon having come to some conclusion, Manabe's face flushes red. I didn't mean it like that. I guess we'll leave it at that. Hey. Anyway, it looks like Izono didn't leave the party once. Apparently he didn't need to go to the restroom. Well, he's hardly had anything to drink. I guess he's abstained from drinking since he had a meeting scheduled. Right, being an editor sounds tough. Tomizawa left the room a few times. She left once after Miss Kana went out too. 4 times. But all of them were only for a few minutes, so she probably went to the restroom to fix her makeup. Yeah, I can't imagine she murdered someone in less than a couple minutes. You wouldn't normally assume it's possible. Kano was the one that left the room the most often, but that makes sense, since he was setting the tables. Right, whenever he came back, he was pushing the trolley with dishes, so it's safe to assume he was preparing it when he was out of the room. The footage shows that Hiroko left the party once. After Miss Kana left, Hiroko went out for 15 minutes. She went to check on her because she was gone for too long. It seems likely, but after coming back, she hasn't left the room until the party broke up. So Kana left at about 21:30, and she didn't come back after that. Yeah, she told us about Kana Yago and left the parlor while we were checking the trolley. We went out to look for her and found her body around 2300. What exactly happened in that time frame? What was Miss Kana even doing there? It's like Tomizawa said, it was nighttime and without any lights. Why go there without a flashlight? Well, even without a flashlight, she could use her cell phone, but that doesn't explain what she was doing there. Okay, so almost everyone had times when they were out of the parlor, but it was always 15 minutes at most. And to get from here to the hollow Kana died in, I think you'd have to walk for 20 minutes, maybe 10 if you ran. In other words, none of the people in this estate could have killed Kana. I'd like to say that, but the only exception is Soichi. Right, he could have left early, but there's another possibility. What other possibility? It's possible someone could have killed Kana after she left the parlor and then carried her over to the hollow. We went out to look for her an hour after the party ended. That's plenty of time to carry her corpse over there. I see. But you know, carrying a dead body that far is pretty hard labor. We didn't hear any cars, so it's unlikely they took her there that way. Maybe a bicycle towing a cart or trailer? Those aren't suited for carrying a body. But there's another option. What is? Tell me. I mean, maybe the god Kanayago snatched her body? Cut that out, no scary stories. But it does fit her story about Kanayago perfectly, and the hollow we've found her in is the entrance to the mine it's related to. And we heard growling and howling last night. Nope, that's a big nope. Anything that looks supernatural at first sight always has a rational explanation. Right, I guess I'm just still shocked. I'm starting to have weird delusions. You know what'll clear those up? Investigating the hell out of this case. A huge fan like you should avenge her death. Right, you're right. Let's go. With Riho and Manabe leaves the room. So many rooms. This is Soichi's room, but the door is locked. Soichi, we needed to talk to you about last night. Maybe he's pretending to be out. After the whole incident happened, the police forbid everyone from leaving the Capricious Hall, after all. Soichi, please let us talk to you. Riho calls out to him a few more times, but no response. I guess he's a bona fide shut-in. Well, he can't refuse a questioning, and pretending he's out won't work on the police. Well, for now, let's leave him to them, I guess. Riho finds Ozono pacing nervously in his room. Yes? I just want to ask you if you know anything about Miss Kana's passing. Do I know something? Well, I know my upcoming publishing schedule is ruined. What about the book? My schedule's a mess as is. I need to hold an emergency meeting as soon as I get back. How do I break the news? Who even did this? We have to clarify that or we won't be able to leave. Calm down. Be quiet, just get out. But... Riho, there's no point right now. Let's just go. Riho follows Manabe's advice. They arrive in Shio Tomizawa's room. Riho finds her sitting in the room in deep contemplation. You need something? I just wanted to ask you for your thoughts about Miss Kana's death. Saddens me. We were always close. I felt that I often took care of that one as she grew into an author. I see. Except with this, Kana's property goes to Soichi. Huh? I hear they have no other relatives. I'm sorry about what happened at the parlor earlier. I said things that made everyone anxious and agitated. Don't know what came over me. Not at all. Everyone was on edge, as was, for good reason. Yes, that's quite right. I was confused and angry as well. It's all clear now, after I've taken some quiet time to think things over. What do you mean? Soichi did it. None of the people in the party had the time to go to the hollow and kill Kana. Memorized. It is impossible to kill Kana and carry her over to the hollow. A round trip to the hollow, where we found the body, would take 40 minutes, and none of the people in the party were gone for that long. I guess that's a mystery author for you, so she noticed that too. Yes, the footage I took proves that, right? In other words, everyone that was in the party has an alibi, and Soichi had the inheritance matter as a motive, and no alibi since he wasn't in the party with us. But no one could have killed Kana. But that's enough to say that Soichi's the killer for sure. Are you siding with him? He has the inheritance as a motive and no alibi for the crime. No, it's just circumstantial evidence. We can't pin the blame on Soichi with that. It would be awful. I see. Then let me tell you this then. I have one more proof that he's the killer. Proof? When we gathered in the parlor after we found Kana's body, I saw it. There was something that looked like red blood on his sleeve. Synesthesia activated. Something that looks like blood was splashed on Soichi's sleeves. Blood? Must have spattered on him when he killed her. He tried to hide it, but I happened to see it when he was heading back to his room. And I grabbed his arm and asked him what the meaning of that was. He shook off my hand and ran off. I went after him, but he shut himself off in his room and is refusing to leave. See, he admitted to being the killer. Blood, huh? Kana was choked to death, but there weren't any bloody scratch marks on her throat. If Soichi really is the killer, it makes sense that his sleeve would be dirty with blood, but... They find an emaciated Hiroko in the reception office. She looks listlessly out the window. So this is where we were. Shutting myself off in my room just made me feel more depressed. Hiroko, why did that happen to Kana? I don't know what to say. I should come again later. Entering the parlor, they find Kana wiping the table with an exhausted expression. How did it come to this? Have you known Miss Kana long? She's been supportive of my cooking for a long time, and when I opened my business, she offered financial aid. Yes, your cooking yesterday was quite delicious. Miss Kana had first-rate taste in cuisine as well. Yes. I'm sorry, but can I ask what became of that financial aid she gave you? The police just asked me the same thing. Thankfully, my business is doing quite well, and I've long since repaid the money she lent me. Understood. Sorry, that was a rude thing to ask. It looks like he doesn't have any motive for killing Miss Kana. They head for the entrance, where they find an officer on guard. Currently, everyone in the capricious hall aren't allowed to leave. We're not going far, or we just want to talk to the inspector. Inspector? We're acquainted with him. We have assisted him in an investigation before. One moment. Officer pulls out a transceiver and exchanges a few words. Eventually, the inspector seems to have confirmed their story, and the officer puts away the transceiver. The inspector gave his permission, so allow me to escort you. He is currently checking the scene where the body was discovered. Understood. Thank you. The officer escorts them. Hey, you two. Didn't expect to run into you on another crime scene. I feel the same way, but we do feel safer with you here, Inspector. Glad to hear it. So, you said you wanted to speak to me? Yes, actually, we had a camera rolling during the entire party. Should help establishing alibis. Really? That would be a huge help. If you could supply the data now. Not so fast. We have a condition. What exactly? Simple, really. Earlier, when you explained the cause of death, you said it was suffocation. Could you explain why you said that? Why I said it? I think it's clear. We found the body last night. I saw rope marks on the victim's neck. The cause of death should be strangulation, right? Well, you two are still suspects, so I probably shouldn't be speaking to you about this. We're willing to share important footage data. That should prove we're on your side. Yes, we did crack a case together. Alright then. Yes, there were definitely rope marks, but the autopsy report says they were inflicted on the victim post-mortem. Post-mortem? Correct. We found some rope that was likely used in the process lying nearby. The thickness matches the marks. In other words, the victim was suffocated in some manner, and then propped up to make it seem like they were strangled. Which means they left the rope here to mask the murder method? In other words, there's a chance the crime wasn't committed here? Yes, however, that's the hard part. No one left the estate until you went out to search for her. If nothing else, no one went outside since the party started, and until you all went out to look for her. How can you say that for sure? The estate is contracted with a security company. When the doors leading outside open, it leaves a record. There was no record for last night. Of course, the security cameras also can confirm nobody left. It's impossible for someone to commit the murder indoors, then carry the body out here. Even if this is a crime scene, how did the victim get here? It's like she teleported. I can't deny that the thought crossed my mind. I'd actually like to ask you two, when you went out to look for Miss Kana, was it possible for someone to carry the corpse over somehow? No. We went outside together, so we would have noticed if somebody did that. Yeah, no one was carrying anything but a flashlight. Well, that leaves the possibility of some secret path. There's definitely some strange tricks to the interior of the estate. Maybe there's a passage. They're so cautious of a burglary that they hired a security company. Not telling them about a passage strikes me as pretty careless. It would come across as weird. You'd expect a passage leading outside. Now then, I should be getting back to the investigation. Is that all you wanted to ask? Yeah, that should be everything. We're sorry for taking your time. We'll leave the footage data with the officers. Yes, please do. Riho and Manabe part ways with Manba and return to the estate. Alright. Ow. Riho returns to her room, and upon raising her arms, realizes her shoulders are to the point of hurting. This much because of how nervous we were yesterday. With that in mind, Riho stretches. Finding not just her shoulders, just about all of her muscles feel stiff. Wow, this is bad. Riho decides to stretch for a while with Manabe as to ease their muscles. How stubborn. What do you want? Just get out already. Get out, chew. Okay. Well, are you convinced that Soichi's the killer now? I need to think this over. Do you now? Well, that's fine. It's almost my turn to be questioned, so I'll tell the police about it. Kano sits absent-mindedly in the parlor. Right, there's something I want to ask you, Kano. What is it? Nothing major. Remember how Miss Kano appeared on the stage yesterday? It's about that. Did you help her by using the trolley? You mean that? I'm surprised you figured it out. Miss Kano said she wanted to throw a little surprise, so I agreed to help. And that's what happened. Seeing our theory was correct is a relief. But I'm impressed. I thought Miss Tomizawa was the only one who figured it out. I thought it was natural since she was a mystery author too. But it's truly impressive to see young ladies like you figure it out too. Nah. It's, all in a day's work. Huh? Well, you figured it out, so... In that case, can you solve the trick behind Miss Kana's disappearance? The trick behind her disappearance? How we found her body in the hollow? Not that, I mean before that. The way she disappeared from the parlor during the party. Around the time Miss Kana disappeared, I was looking at the entrance to the parlor the whole time. I can swear it on my name when I say that Miss Kana did not pass through the exit, yet she somehow disappeared. Phrase memorized. Kana wasn't seen leaving the parlor. So, you're saying Miss Kana disappeared from the parlor despite not going through the exit? Exactly. Assuming I wasn't intoxicated, I missed her. I get it. Rio looks around the parlor. It was decorated from walls to the ceiling. There's nothing what looks like that might hide an exit. There is a window, but it's pretty high up. There might be some trick here, like with a revolving door in the guest room. By the way, I think when we checked yesterday's footage, Miss Kana really did disappear at some point. Although I wasn't all that focused on it at the time. Seriously? Can't say for sure. Let's check it again. Yeah. The two leave the parlor, hurrying back to their room. Riho and Manabe return to the room again and check the footage. So, Miss Kana disappeared at around 21:30 or so. Let's fast forward. There's Kana, right before she disappeared. Looks like she's making sure no one's looking in her direction. She is, though now she's out of the frame. Doesn't look like she's heading for the exit, and that's it. Huh? This is where Kana disappears from the parlor, which means that, there's another exit? I suppose. This room has a secret door in the elevator from the first day, and the house has a lot of secret tricks to it. Between the room's secret door and the elevator, Miss Kana showed us on our first day here. This house has a lot of strange tricks. She prepared such a surprise just to make her entrance to the party. I wouldn't put it past her to set up gimmicks like this in her own house. But we really didn't notice. I just thought she left normally. Common sense is our blind spot, I suppose. Right, chances are the culprit knew about this. If they didn't, how could they find Kana after she disappeared? Anyway, let's figure out the trick behind this gimmick. Roger that. Having finished their investigation, Riho and Manabe returned to their room, even though they were in their room already. Huh? Say, what do you think about Miss Kana's death? Well, I'm sad, of course. I would have loved to read more of her novels. And I would have loved for you to act in an adaptation of her books and then show it to her. Manabe. She closes her eyes quietly and then opens them again, as if coming to some conclusion. Can't believe some passing by murderer did this. It's only natural to assume someone who was in Capricious Hall yesterday did this. And that means, like Tomizawa said, the most suspicious person is Soichi. He has no alibi and a motive. There was also the matter of blood on his arms. We should talk to him somehow and ask him about it. Right, but how do we get to his room? Don't you feel like we still don't know too many things? Huh? About this estate and Soichi. I think we need to investigate a little bit more deeply. Remember what Kano said? He doesn't recall her seeing leave the parlor. That might be related to how she was carried to the hollow. True, there's still a lot of questions floating around the incident. Answering them one by one might be our key. Yeah, let's investigate how Kano left the party again. There should be a clue somewhere. You're right, let's head for the parlor. They are likely in the middle of questioning Kano, because when Riho and Manabe arrive, they find it silent and empty. Now then, since there's no sign of Kano leaving through the exit, there should be another way out of this room somewhere around here. Judging by the small room trick we saw in our room, this isn't gonna be simple. We should use the old noggin. At the very end of the right-hand side of the hall is an open door leading to a small room. Cloakroom? Looks like it, but it's a bit small. A cloakroom was a space for storing clothes. It was built along with a stage to be used by whoever's performing on it. Peeking into the open door, Riho finds that it doesn't seem to lead to a staircase or anything of the sort. I guess you wouldn't usually put an emergency staircase in a cloakroom. Are you sure? I should check inside anyway, just to be on the safe side. The two step through the open door and go inside. Upon pulling the curtain open, they find nothing but a hanger hanging at the height of somebody's head. No one used this place last night, right? Well, it's summer, and it's a casual party, so nobody came with cloaks or coats. Makes sense, but cloakroom is extremely cramped, so much so that it felt narrow with the two of them in it. Cramped space, empty hanger, totally dark with no light. It's bright as hell in here. What is she talking about? The situation gave her an odd sense of deja vu. Felt like she's been somewhere like this before. Where was it again? What's wrong? Feel like I'm gonna remember something, but it just won't come out. At times like this, close your eyes and take a deep breath. Try thinking back on what happened last time. Right, let me try. Riho closes her eyes and sharpens her senses, keen to trace back the thread of that memory. Passed through a cramped place, then bumped into something, and then... Hey, if you do it there, I can't get out. Right, sorry. Riho moves aside with her eyes closed, and then feels her shoulder bump against something. What was that? You bumped against a coat hanger. Hanger. Wait, the hanger? Riho's eyes open. Was this what I bumped into back then? What's wrong? If it is... Riho pushes back Manabe and heads for the back wall, and then rolls up the velvet furnishing as hard as she could. Behind it is a elevator door. I did it. I found it. This is... Manabe, do you remember the first time we were here? Miss Kana was showing us around the Capricious Hall. Right, but... Oh. Do you remember? She blindfolded us and took us to the 3rd floor. I was blindfolded back then, but I heard myself bumping into something. Sounded like a coat hanger. Now that you mention it, it does make sense. Your intuition is surprisingly sharp in the most useless ways. But if there's an elevator here, this must have been how Miss Kana left. Right, she probably snuck in here when no one was looking and used the elevator. But where did she go? That is what we need to check. The two squat as they cross through the low door and quickly enter the elevator. Huh? What's wrong, Riho? One of the elevator buttons just says B. What do you think that means? From top to bottom, the elevator buttons say 3, 1, and B. Judging by how they're positioned, it probably means basement. So there is a basement. We need to check this out. Yeah, I'm curious about the 3rd floor, but we should probably check the basement first. We were never down there, so we might discover something new. Right, we can go to the 3rd floor later. After operating the panel, they easily reach the basement level. They find themselves in a cold place with no windows, though as to be expected, they're underground. It looks like an office building. Good thing there are lights on, but this place is creepy. Anyway, there's a few rooms here. Let's check them out. Laboratory? Soichi's atelier? They enter the room as countless portraits lining the walls draw their attention. So many pretty paintings. This must be a studio. Riho looks at the room's center. The single painting stands there, propped up on a wooden stand. Look at this. This is... Drawn on the canvas is an image of a woman smiling, with a building in the background. There are some blank spots on the portrait, so it's likely still in the process of being drawn. Isn't the woman in the middle here Miss Kana? That's definitely her, and this building behind her, it's still half drawn, but... yeah, it can't be anywhere but the Capricious Hall. You can't mistake the silhouette. The paint around the Capricious Hall is moist compared to the rest of the painting. Riho rubs the spot gently, only to have a bit of scarlet paint cling to her fingers. I knew it. Someone drew this painting recently. I don't think it was Miss Kana who drew this. Yeah, I can't imagine she'd draw herself with this building and as the backdrop, so it was probably Soichi who drew this. Miss Kana did say he was an artist, which means he knew about this elevator and could go to the basement too. There are painting materials scattered across the walls and floor. It's clear someone was in the process of drawing something here. There's a lot of used paint, spray ink, chisels, and palettes, and they're all very well maintained. Someone's definitely been using this room recently. They find a room with a plate that says vacuum laboratory on the door. Vacuum laboratory? Think you can drain all the air from this room. Isn't that, like, dangerous? Very. If you create a vacuum in the room while someone's inside, they'll definitely die. And when there's a vacuum, you can't open the door from the outside because of the air pressure. That's crazy dangerous. Why is this kind of room here? I don't know, maybe she experimented it as a trick for her novels? Making a whole room just for that? That's pretty excessive. The room falls silent and the vacuum equipment doesn't seem to be operating. Rooms like this usually have an emergency stop button there. See? It has one. Next to the door is an emergency stop button. You're right, huh? What? The switch looks broken. Riho tries to push the button a few times, but doesn't budge. Looks like it's broken, because someone applied force to it in the wrong direction. Memorized. The vacuum laboratory's emergency stop button is out of order. If anything were to happen inside, there'd be no stopping it. And wouldn't you know, this button is out of order until you touch it. Maybe you think, Miss Kana, it's possible she suffocated to death in here. Yes. We probably shouldn't touch anything else. The police would want to investigate this place. Right. The two tiptoe out, leaving the room silently. Upon opening the door, Riho and Manabe are greeted by the sight of bookshelves packing the walls. Look at all these books. This is probably Miss Kana's reference room. There's a pneumatic system set up here too. Right, she sent her materials to her studies from here. There's an intercom next to it. She probably used it to specify what material she wanted sent. That's convenient, but I get the feeling she didn't really need to set something like this up. That's just her playful nature. Can't judge a person for having a hobby, I guess. I didn't imagine we'd find a place like this in the basement. All these rooms are really weird, and we didn't find any passage leading outside. Even if she snuck out of the party through here, she didn't have a way out of the estate. Right, except we did discover the vacuum laboratory and one more big piece of information. What was that? Yep, for now, let's go back up. With this bit of information, we should be able to talk. Wait, what do you mean talk? Riho? Riho doesn't answer Manabe's question, simply pulling her by the arm. Riho Part 2, Chapter 3. Unlike earlier, the parlor was filled with officers. The room had a frantic atmosphere. With Riho discovering the basement, they were on the verge of identifying the real crime scene. Inspector Manabe stands imposingly in the center of the room. The inspector's really into this, huh? Well, even if they know what the crime scene is, that doesn't mean they can immediately pinpoint the killer. We don't know how the corpse was moved to the hollow yet, after all. Yeah, that's true. I feel like we could figure this out. The cloakroom. The elevator couldn't be there, could it? She could go here in the middle of the party without anyone suspecting, yeah? That's pretty clever. Thanks to you two, we can identify the real murder scene. We're very grateful. So the crime scene was really down there in the basement? Yeah, we checked the vacuum laboratory and found faint luminol reactions on the inner side of the door. Looks like she scratched her neck while she was suffocating, leaving blood on the door from her fingers. You mean she was running out of air and tried to open the door and then... That's how it seems, yes. That's gruesome. I knew it was a murder, but that's just too awful. Dying in such a terrible way. Manabe. We're still doing our best to arrest the perpetrator, so that that's the minimum amount of respect we can pay the victim. He's right, Manabe. We'll definitely find the killer. Let's avenge Miss Kana's death together. Right, I'm sorry. I let my feelings get the better of me. Anyway, we're doing everything we can, so we'd appreciate it if you tell us if you learn anything relevant. Roger, sir. Yes. Both that manager and Soichi, the two of them had to have known about the basement, but they kept quiet about it. They didn't mention it? Not a word when we questioned them. We didn't imagine there'd be an elevator hidden in a place like that. Well, I don't know if I can blame them for that easily for that. What do you mean? The body was found in the hollow. They didn't think a place in the estate only people who live here would know and that would be related. I suppose that makes sense, but since they knew about the place, that makes the two of them very suspicious. Alright, I think I'm gonna save and we'll continue this next time. So, thanks for watching and see you guys then. Bye.